Сейчас я предоставлю слово следующему оратору, очень интересному нашему гостю, Дэниелу Шефферу, который всю свою жизнь, можно сказать, связан с Вьетнамом, генерал в прошлом, очень много сделал в свое время, уже после войны французской, спустя много лет, и сейчас активно выступающий по всем очень таким актуальным вопросам, которые обсуждаются в этом регионе. Я очень благодарен, Дэниел, что ты приехал сюда. Рад тебя слышать еще раз.
Thank you very much, Mr. Loksin. Thank you very much, Dmitry, for having invited me again in this conference. I'm going to speak rather quickly because, as you could see in my paper, my presentation is rather dense. The question is a little bit far from the South China Sea because the title is the fallout of the US strategy in Ukraine on the US rebalancing in Asia Pacific. And you will have here only the main ideas abstracted from my paper. This is a strictly personal perception on how the different actors are playing. Therefore, that does not allow me to speak on their behalf, and consequently, this is largely open to critics. The aftershock of the Maidan incidents, Russia seizes Crimea. Russia directly or indirectly supports, this is still to be determined, Donetsk separatist movement. US and EU, after that, US and EU pronounced sanctions against Russia, and forcingly Russia turns to China. The question raised from that is, does this affect the US rebalancing strategy from Atlantic toward Pacific and Asia? First one is the consideration is the strengthening of the Russian-China ties in the economic fields. And one example which had been largely quoted by the international press is the huge gas contract passed on May 21st, 2014 between China and Russia. But it's not the only one. You have also strengthening relations in the military field too. One of the questions raised, one of the questions raised by the Russian military China rapprochement in the military field is, will the Shanghai Cooperation Organization turn into an Eastern NATO? That's a question that is raised in the West side. We also have the Xi Jinping's proposals at the fourth conference on interaction and confidence building measures in Asia held on the 21st of May 2014. Xi Jinping's proposals are a new regional security cooperation architecture. And in this program, regional problems must be solved between Asian countries only, without, I underline that, without the interference of external countries. This is the message to the USA. Problem in this new regional security cooperation architecture is that some important countries missing. As you can see here, SICA area, Far East and Pacific countries are missing, Japan, Australia, Brunei, Indonesia, Laos, Malaysia, and so on. The other questions raised by the Russia-China rapprochement in the military field is the re-strengthening of the Russian military sales to China, and also the different drills between China and Russia. As far as joint sea drills are concerned, 4 were held since 2012-2013 because of the aggravation of the relations between China and Japan, supported by the USA. In 2014, it was specific in the wake of the Ukraine crisis. This is Joint Sea Drill 2014, and it has been held largely largely off Shanghai area, but in the western part of the East China Sea, and it was focused essentially on area for area denial strategy, which is a lot of concern from China. Joint Sea Drill 2015 occurred from the 17th to the 21st of May, not in Asia, but in the Mediterranean Sea. The usual message was it was not directed at any one country, but the hidden messages are the following one. From Russia to NATO, you bring your forces close to my borders, I show you that I can react on your southern flank with an ally from the Far East. From China to the US, you come to bother me in my seas, I can come to bother you in the West with the support of Russia. Other exercises are under under Shanghai Cooperation Organization, are held under this organization. They are the resumption of the peace mission exercises, which started in 2005. The first years were held on a large scale, but scale lowered little by little the following years until 2014, when Ukraine crisis happened. So the 2014 peace mission exercise held in Mongolia, in Inner Mongolia, was a drill strongly enhanced compared to the former ones. But Russia is also close to some nations of the south of Asia, which are also supported by the USA because of the highly preoccupying questions of the China Seas. Is there a contradiction inside this? Russia's armament says to some nations of the south of Asia, I will not examine here the inventory because it will be too long, but only some countries are quoted: Indonesia, Vietnam, which keeps traditional friendly, faithful relations with Russia, but which is courted by the USA, Malaysia, India, which keeps traditional, friendly, faithful relations with Russia as well as with Vietnam, but which is also courted by the USA in the frame of the US-India Joint Strategic Vision for the Asia-Pacific and Indian Ocean region, Burma and other Southeast Asian nations markets that are targeted. Question raised from that: since Russia is still close to some of the nations of South of Asia, does that mean that it is bandwagoning with them against China? Since Russia is coming closer to China, is it supporting China against the Southeast Asian nations, especially in their fights for their interest in the South China Sea? Such a situation is puzzling, but in my mind it only reflects the Russian will of political independence as far as it is possible for that. And the main concern, however, is the rapprochement with China cannot create a preoccupation for the US and its allies facing China. Instead of having to face China only, the US presently has to face a kind of coalition. The US is not losing an ally in the South China Sea or even the East China Sea, but a possible neutral partner, as I underlined that 2 years ago in October when I participated to the first international conference on the question. The consequences of the Russia-China rapprochement for Japan is, at the moment when Moscow and Shinzo Abe were ready to resume the negotiation about the northern territories, South Korea's the new situation compelled the Japanese to withdraw, created a loss for them to discuss with Russia, because the Japanese have to rely on the US to help them protect their rights. Another miss provoked by the US strategy in Europe is a new rapprochement between Russia and North Korea as of May 2014, with a lot of economical projects and even some in the military field. Does that mean Russia will fully support Kim Jong-un's policy from now on. This is a kind of blackmail to the attention of the US? More important point, however, is does that endanger the six-party talks even if, on this very point, Russia agrees to continue with China, the USA, Japan, South Korea together? Will that not encourage Kim Jong-un to pursue its nuclear military program? In this condition, increasing the North Korean threats towards the US and its allies, Japan and South Korea. Last question, is the US rebalancing strategy compromised? President Obama's announcement of the rebalancing strategy was made on November 17th, 2011 in Canberra in front of the Australian Parliament. The main UN concerns in front of the Chinese ambitions in the East and in the South China Sea are the military capabilities of Southeastern Asian countries in words of weaponry, combat readiness, the most important, the international freedom of sea and air navigation on and above the South China Sea, and the rebalancing of US forces according to the program contemplated. Consequently, the US will continue to continue their military support to its Eastern Asian allies and reinforce them. This is only as a reminder. They bring a support to the Philippines, accentuated after the Chinese assertiveness in the South China Sea. This appears in the enhanced defense cooperation agreement signed on April 28, 2014. The huge program of modernization of the Filipino Armed Forces, Navy and Air Force overall, and the reinforcement of the annual bilateral military exercises such as Balikatan. Balikatan 2015, which was held from the 20th to the 30th of April, and it was the largest one since year 2000. But what is new is that this exercise is included in Pacific pathways. There are some pictures of Balikatan exercise. What are Pacific pathways? Pacific pathways is a new US initiative which is part of a plan to establish a semi-permanent US presence in Asia. 29 exercises are scheduled across 12 countries over the next 5 years. And these exercises enter in the frame of the US rebalancing strategy. Support to Vietnam. On October the 2nd, 2014, the US lifted the embargo on non-lethal military equipment. On June the 1st, 2015, US joined Vietnam signed their joint vision statement, which is a new step for a future military cooperation. And on that occasion, already $18 million credits was already open to buy for Vietnam to buy 2 offshore patrol boats. The US military support to the Southeastern Asian nation in combat readiness. The purpose is to get the capability to conduct joint operations with US forces. This increased the momentum of the US maneuvers, especially in naval operations, and the recent enhancement of their magnitudes as far as number of personnel and naval means involved. Several drills are held with Southeast Asian nations. Balikatan, this is a reminder. SICAT, Southeast Asia Cooperation and Training, which is a bilateral exercise. CARAT, Cooperation, Float Readiness and Training, which is bilateral on multilateral as well. With Japan, we have King's World, started in 1986 and which is held twice a year. With Australia, with Talisman Sabre. This year, 40 Japanese military will participate to the exercise, which is rather significant of the Japanese interest in the South China Sea. As far as the rebalancing of forces, popular said, is said, Philippines, thanks to the EDCA, offers the possibility of access to 8 bases to rotate troops to the US. This is under examination of constitutionality. And in Singapore, as of December 29, 2014, the US will anchor 4 littoral combat ships on a rotation basis. The first one is the USS Fort Worth, already in place, and which had confronted with the Chinese industrial place on the 11th of May 2015, which is a picture of the USS Fort Worth. In Japan, the US forces will remain in place. There will be rotations of nuclear aircraft carrier in Japan. The USS Theodore Roosevelt, after mission completed in the Middle East, will shift from the US East Coast to the West. And on the 28th of May 2015, one guided missile cruiser, the USS Chancellor was added. In Australia, the implementation of the Joint Force Posture Initiative as of November 2011, 6 months rotation Marines in Darwin. Already 4 rotations were held since that. And the project of positioning V1 Lancer strategic bombers and surveillance aircraft has been a dud for the moment being. The interest of the US for having forces in Darwin is can liaise with Diego Garcia and project forces directly through friendly nations to the South China Sea and to Japan and to Taiwan. In conclusion, except the rapprochement between Russia and China, I consider that there is no very noticeable consequence of the US rebalancing strategy. Thank you very much for your attention.
Спасибо, Дэниел, за очень интересное сообщение военно-стратегического характера, которое показывает нам также одну простую вещь, что в нашем глобализирующемся мире все взаимосвязано. И те события, которые происходят сейчас на Украине, в восточной части и вообще в мире, в том числе и на Ближнем Востоке, чрезвычайно связано все это с тем, что мы сейчас рассматриваем в Юго-Восточной Азии. Страны, народы Юго-Восточной Азии внимательно наблюдают за тем, что там происходит, за той позицией, которую занимают Соединенные Штаты Америки, за той политикой, которую они проводят, результаты, которые это дает, и делают свои собственные выводы в отношении того, насколько и как можно на них рассчитывать, и можно ли вообще занимать определенные позиции в данный момент. Спасибо большое еще раз.